नमस्कार, मैं हूं परवीन डबास और आप देख रहे हैं द MMA India Show. You're watching the MMA India Show and we're going to speak about UFC Hidalgo today. It's a really special show today because we are going to start the fan corner as well, in which we invite fans via Skype to give their views and comments on the fight. And today we have a really special fan. If I can call him the number one fan, he's got a lot of knowledge of UFC, MMA, at least it appears so from his Twitter. So welcome Taman Preet. Taman Preet is from Ambala. Say hello to
Thanks,
everybody.
Dabas.
How are
Thanks
you?
for the intro.
Thanks. So tell us a little about yourself and your love for UFC and MMA before we start.
Yeah, my love started in 2012. I myself competed in judo at school level. So I am basically a combat sports fan from a very young age. So I got introduced to this sport by my friend. So 4 to 5 years back. So I basically fell in love with the sport. So then I started following UFC. Then I started watching. Bellator used to come on AXN previously. I don't know why there's no deal right now with Bellator.
Yeah,
In India.
Bellator I think was coming on one of the Reliance networks, the big channels.
I'm
Because
not sure. Like,
I think it used to come on one of the big channels, and then they stopped. When the channels themselves stopped, I think nobody's taken the rights again to Bellator yet. But I think hopefully very soon somebody will take the rights to start screening them.
absolutely. Because you see, with the rise of Michael Venom Page, he is a knockout artist, and then
Actually,
he
he's one of
got
my favorite fighters. Of course, he's fought in the SFL as well, and
absolutely.
he's phenomenal because his movement, the way he strikes, there's just no predicting what he's going to do at any time.
Yeah, I have seen his gifs many times. I'm sure you might remember his 360 kick.
Yeah.
He threw, I think, it was in SFL. I don't remember the tournament, but it was amazing. He's special now, and now might have seen the Santos fight with the MVP. He cracked his skull with his knee.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
we'll talk about Bellator later because we've got
sure.
the UFC, Hidalgo to speak about. So let's start the show. And we're really excited. We had some really good fights today. We had some, well, at least one really boring exchange, which the crowd also thought it was really boring. But, I have to say that there is no fight which is really boring because the fighters give it their all. And it's very easy for us to sit here and say, oh, it was boring and it was this. And they should have engaged more. They should have made more exciting. लेकिन अगर हिंदी में हम बोले, लकीली मेरे ख्याल से इसमें ये एडल्ट ही देख रहे हैं, लेकिन फाइटर जो है वो अपनी गांड का दम लगा देता है बीच में और हम यहाँ पे बैठ के बोलते हैं कि अरे फाइटिंग नहीं कर रहे थे.
The problem is यहाँ पे because everybody wants to get entertained. Entertained कैसे? They see like boxing and all that. कि contact होना चाहिए. But nobody give a damn about jiu-jitsu. High level jiu-jitsu हमने देखा इस fight में. Chas Kelly वाली
Chris
fight में. Chas Kelly.
Wade versus Islam Makhachev.
Yeah, but I saw that fight. It was a very interesting scrap between Islam Makachev and Chris Wade. It was very interesting scrap because they were going back and forth. आगे पीछे submission का.
I thought it was amazing, the skill, the grappling, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. It was really amazing, the high level skill there. And I think the only reason Wade lost eventually because Islam had more gas in the tank rather than Wade वो second round के बाद ही थका हुआ लग रहा था वो.
हाँ, Chris Wade थका हुआ भी लग रहा था. Plus I think जो judges देखते हैं, they might see the top position time. कि किसने top position time किसने maximum लिया.
Yeah.
So in that case, I think Ismail Makhachev वहाँ पे थोड़ा बाजी मार लेगा.
Yeah, and it went all 3 rounds. I think there were so many times where either guy had the other guy, like it started with Wade getting Islam in a guillotine, but he was able to get out. And then Wade got top control. Islam got Wade in a triangle choke. and then Wade got. So it was a back and forth match, especially the first round. There was
Right.
always a lot of back and forth, changing the control and everything, and each fighter able to show his skill not only in trying to get the other in chokes, but also the other one in defending.
Right, right. There was a triangle, yeah, when the Chris Wade was in triangle. Next triangle pull, yeah, he was pulling Wade's head. I thought it was deep and it was going to be over, but somehow Chris Wade got out and it was full display of that.
Yeah, yeah. So let's go to the. Of course, this was a great fight. In the end, they both stood and exchanged for some time because I think they were tired of taking it to the ground. Both of them, seemed pretty tired.
Right.
In the end, of course, it was a unanimous decision for
Yes.
Islam. Even the second
Islam.
round, was totally. Wade in the beginning took top control and what looked like an anaconda choke in the
Yeah,
beginning.
right.
Islam flipped him and gained side control. Wade again got control and got the choke. Couldn't hold. Islam got on top. There was this constant back and forth which shows the high level of skill between these two guys. And I think Khabib was in Islam's corner as well.
Yes, yes, right, right. Because they both come from AKA.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, and the base for AKA is wrestling.
Wrestling,
And
correct.
the DC mainly, I mean, heavily depends on wrestling. And if you see Khabib also, his main skill is wrestling. So I think what they recognize on is wrestling, and then it comes for the striking. And of course, Javier Mendez is there as their striking coach, and he is a very skilled fighter. He was a very skilled fighter too. So we cannot. I mean, like you see, they have all the people who have wrestling. Of course, they have the knockout power too. But in this case, I think the grappling, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu was the main criteria in this match.
Yeah, and like I said, of course, they tried standing up for some time in the third round.
Right. Right.
Also I think because they were probably tired of taking
Yes.
it to the ground because these attempted chokes they take a lot out of you. It might seem like it takes less energy on the ground, but the truth is that it takes a lot more energy in both trying to go and hold the choke and also defending.
Right, because when you are doing a guillotine or it tires your arms out. Even if you're doing a rear naked or you're doing a guillotine, it will tire your arms out. And then you have the pressure guard.
Yeah.
Like right, the left, your left knee is under your feet. So it's like pressuring your waist and your legs also get tired.
Exactly, yes. And we saw that a couple of times with Islam, where he was, of course, he had the leg lock on as well. And you felt when he gets up, he may not be able to stand
Yeah.
very long because he had applied pressure for so very long.
Yes, I felt that. I think it was late in second round. It seems
Yeah.
when I think Chris Wade had that the heel hook.
Yeah, I think Wade got in a heel hook at the end of the second round.
Yeah, sorry.
When
Yeah.
just before it ended, yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
great match. I really love this one, especially because these everybody likes this standing and exchanging and boxing, but these fights are what really show skill, like a Damian Maya
Yes,
fighter who is all jiu-jitsu. So these fights show a great level of skill, which
Yes.
there is only a handful of fighters who we can say still practice a ground game. But coming to the first fight on the main card, Skelly versus Blanco,
Yeah.
it started amazingly. I think he took a page out of Verdum's book.
Yeah.
Where he came out flying. I think the other guy also realized he's going to come with a flying kick. So for some time they were both in the air like a double ninja kick. I think it was one of those film poster moments, and it was amazing. Of course, Skelly got the front kick, and he got ground control. And very soon, of course, he got him in a guillotine, and then he converted it into a dark choke.
Yeah, dark choke. Yeah, that's correct. Anaconda dark choke.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was beautiful transition. I thought he was going for guillotine, and then I thought when he was in the side control, I think he might have went for the one flew too. But in the end, he went for darts, and beauty. It was beautiful to
It was
see
beautiful
that.
the way he started and ended. I don't know if it's I don't know if I should say pre-planned, but he knew once he had him off balance a bit, he immediately transitioned into the choke, and the way he held on to it, I mean, it was 19 seconds, so amazing, great. I would say great fight plan. The fight was, of course, at weatherweight, and it was like I said before, you knew it had already ended.
Absolutely. And in the post-fight interview with John Anik, he said that he had plans to drop kick Maximo Blanco.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was already the pre-planned with Cass Kelly, and he changed camp. I think he was with Team Takedown in Texas. Now he's with Black Zillion. So that might be one factor for. And he also asked for, I think, the fight, Darren Elkins fight again. He told that he was not prepared for that fight. Now he wants that fight back.
Yeah. Now, coming to the third fight on the main card,
Yeah,
Ronan versus Kenny Robertson.
yeah,
It was, of course, I wouldn't say a listless fight, but, there wasn't much happening in the fight. And the crowd, of course, was booing in the second and third round as well, and they booed at the end. And we've spoken about this before in the MMA India show. And, of course, like I said, we have a great respect for fighters, and it's not easy in there.
yes,
But
yeah,
the crowd, of course, like they said in Gladiator, the mob wants blood.
yeah, right, right, right.
The crowd there has come to see a fight. They want a fight. It's not easy, of course, because both fighters. It's not like they're not trying, But nobody wants to, uh, 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 you know, uh, make a false move and get knocked out or anything or get taken down. So both fighters, of course, were cautious. They were trying. I think Kenny was probably pressing forward much more than Ronan.
Yeah, Kenny was pressing forward, and I don't know what happened, but you see, Kenny's hand shaking before he punches. You
Hmm.
might have noticed that. I mean, I don't know why he does that. It seems like he is going to. It's like just telling your plans, "I'm going to punch you
And
right
his
now."
punches weren't really punches. Also, they're almost like swipes.
Yes, right, right. They were not like really heavy punches.
Yeah.
They had a back and forth, a little bit of exchange in between, I think, in the second round.
Yeah.
But Kenny, I don't think that Kenny did much to win that fight.
Yeah, Kenny didn't do much, but neither Ronan, of course, had three takedowns. I think so. I think that is
Yeah,
what tilted it in his favor in the end.
yes, that's correct. And then I think Ron Canario uh, did a bit of you can say the jiu-jitsu thing with this locking and all that. He tried to take down and then he went for the choke, and also that's why I think that was the main reason he got the win. And it was right to be. I think it was a split decision or unanimous. I
No, it was a split decision. Yeah, it was a split
split
decision. Yeah.
but I but once I was watching the fight, I thought that Roan was winning all the three rounds. I
Yeah.
don't think that Kenny did much damage according to the thing. Say it's about the octagon control and the one who does most damage. And I think Roan did most of the damage in that fight.
Well, let's move on to a much more exciting fight. Even Dunham versus Rick Glenn, even being number
Yeah.
15 in the lightweight, 17 and 6 record. Rick Glenn 18-3-1. Even was on a 3-fight winning streak. Of course, with this, he made it number 4. It was again a really good fight in terms of that we thought it might finish in the very first round, where he got him in a rare naked choke. I think, yeah, and took top control as well. But even Rick showed great tenacity in getting out of that and surviving the whole match as well. Even though if we see the second and third round, he looked like he was barely able to stand up. But I think, and this fight won fight of the night honors.
Yes.
Even though it was not an evenly contested match, I think it was unanimous 32-27 in
Yes.
favor of Even,
That,
and deservedly so. But Rick deserves, he deserved fight of the night just because Rick Glenn hung in there throughout the fight. And even if you see in the second, and especially in the third, the last 45 seconds, they were just standing and bagging combinations, exchanging, and I think that, of course, is what is exciting for the fans.
absolutely. You see, this even Dunham, he's high level jiu-jitsu artist, but he stands and bangs. And this guy, Rick Glenn, he showed a lot of heart today. I mean, I didn't think that he would be able to compete in third round, but still, he came and both fighters were raising their hands just to appreciate.
Of course, but it was pretty obvious who had won.
Yeah,
And in between, of course, in between the rounds, Rick was, I think, taunting. Rick was taunting him a bit by raising his hands, saying,
yeah,
you haven't heard me,
yeah.
kind of thing. So, which seemed a little, I don't know, a little premature, because Even was obviously getting the better of the exchanges
Yeah, it
throughout.
was his, it was his first. You can say it was his UFC debut, and he was champion in his last organization. But you always get UFC jitters. You are there in the big show now, so you are bound to get some jitters. And then again, he showed a lot of heart, and you can say it was some kind of I thing. I mean, pre you can
But
say.
let's not forget, he was a late replacement as well.
Yeah, yes, he was to fight. I think even Dunham was to fight Cable Trujillo.
Trujillo.
Trujillo, yeah.
Yeah.
So Trujillo pulled out, and then it was filled by Rick Glenn. And I remember that fight. You can compare this fight to that Leonardo Veneta and Tony Ferguson fight. That the guy who comes from other
I
organizations
think that
and
fight was on another level. I don't
yeah,
think this fight quite reached that, but yeah, I know what you mean. But
yeah.
and we've spoken about that fight before being an amazing, of course, fight in which what was his name again?
Veneta,
Veneta.
Leonardo.
Yeah, Veneta almost, of course, in the first round knocked Tony out.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
Rick was never close to doing that in this fight.
Yes, yes,
But I know what you mean. He showed great tenacity. So
yeah,
did Veneta.
yeah. It was
And
great fight. I think it deserved the fight of the night honors.
this you didn't
Yeah.
feel it deserved.
No, no, no. It
It
did.
did.
It did.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. So
it
so
deserved.
so do we. We feel it did deserve fight of the
Yeah,
night honors
yeah,
because we felt it was going to end in the first round.
yeah.
But like we said, Glenn showed great skill in getting out of those chokes and also not just surviving, but being able to stand up and exchange in the third round.
He was about to get knocked out. I think that referee was there to also like he just showed some heart and that was referee just sat down that second point. I think once Dunham threw two, three combinations, he was about to get down, and then he suddenly woke up, and then he thought that I could fight this fight till three
Yeah.
rounds.
And we also saw his corner, of course, constantly goading him. And, of course, when you're in the ring, we don't know how much that goading actually helps because the guys are so tired, they may not be able to hear. If I want to say it in Hindi, the fighter inside must be saying, "Chup kar pancho, idhar meri gaana lagi hai, tum hai bakwas kiye ja rahe ho." You know what I mean? It's
Right,
like
right,
that kind
right.
of thing because the corners are always saying stuff and the fighters are like, "Fuck, I'm dying in here."
I'm dying.
you know?
Fighters, they don't know. You can imagine the head trauma. उनके दिमाग मतलब कोई if somebody is punching you in the face, you can imagine the trauma they are going inside. मेरे को नहीं लगता कि whatever the coach would be telling them, उनको कुछ समझ भी आ रहा होगा उस टाइम वहां
आई
पे
थिंक कभी कभी
कि
कुछ कुछ सुनाई देता है लेकिन ज्यादातर तो उनका जो प्लान बना होता है इट्स इन द मोमेंट
in
यू
the
कांट
moment.
जस्ट ऑफ कोर्स दे आर सीइंग इट फ्रॉम अ डिफरेंट पर्सपेक्टिव the fighter inside he is seeing it from a different perspective. He's not just trying to survive, but of course he's trying to knock the other guy out, and he's trying to pace himself. There's so many things going inside that ring. So, but of
Right.
course, the corner's duty is to keep reminding the fighter as well.
Right, right. But Donald Cerrone ने Cowboy Cerrone ने he explained it very well. एक बार उसने कहा कि when I'm fighting, I'm in the zone like जैसे हम वीडियो गेम्स खेलते हैं.
हाँ
It seems like कि जैसे हम खुद को ऑपरेट कर
कर
रहे
रहे
हैं.
हैं हाँ.
तो आई एम इन द जोन. अगर आपको हल्का सा भी नहीं हो जोन में तो आप वहां पे यू आर absolutely gonna lose
I
the
think
fight.
that's a great way of putting it. Let's
Yes.
get down to, of course, the co-main event, Uriah Hall versus Derek Brunson. Now,
Uh,
I personally am a very big fan of Uriah Hall, and I feel
uh,
it's very unfortunate he's never been able to really reach his potential. I think sometimes he gets into these, zones. He's not focused, and that's why you see him. Of course, today was the first time he got so-called knocked out. Though there was a lot of controversy about that later on. But his losses up till now have all been decisions, but his wins have mostly been knockouts, and very spectacular spinning kick knockouts and everything. And of course, he's got a win over Gregor Musasi as well. He's a really good fighter. He's just not been able to reach his potential. Derek Brunson, of course, he's on a winning streak
no, no,
right
no.
now, and he's got a lot of first round finishes. So it was supposed to be, it was going to be an exciting match, of course. But like we saw, Derek got in. I think it was a left. Yeah, he. I'm glad. Whenever I watch the match, I always make my notes, so I'm sure about what I'm saying. So he got in a huge left, which put Hall down. Now it did seem that Uriah was able to protect himself. He was, of course, conscious. The but you can't blame the referee totally because he's standing right over them thinking, and the way he got knocked out, the way he went down, it did seem like he was in a bad state. But the fact is, as soon as he stopped the fight, it was apparent that
Yeah,
Uriah Hall wasn't in a bad state. He was pretty conscious. He was protecting himself, and he got up immediately, and he was like a little surprised, which of course a lot of them are. So it was a controversial decision, and the crowd did boo the decision.
yeah.
Personally, I also felt it was a little early, but you can't blame the referee because they're humans. So they're just trying to protect the fighter, and mistakes happen, but it costs the fighter a fight. He gets that fight against his name. So the stakes are very high. So mistakes like that are very costly for the other guy. Should he have waited a little while longer?
Yeah, I think the ref was Herbie before the phone game.
Can you
I
repeat
think
that? Your sound went a bit.
I think the yeah, sure. I think the ref was Herbie. I think Herbie is one of the veterans in the sport. So हर्बी ने जरूर देखा होगा वहां पे. आई फील कि वहां पे कुछ ऐसा कि his arms might have gone limp or something. वहां पे उन्होंने कुछ ऐसा जरूर देखा होगा. That's why he stopped the fight. That's what I think. That
Well, I think it's going to be, of course, there's going to be a lot. There's already a lot of talk of it on Twitter and social media. People are obviously going to have their own sides to take. Personally, like I said, I felt, it was early, but of course, I'm not. The referee is standing right there. He's in a better place to take a decision. He doesn't want the fighter to get hurt. It did seem early, but it was just one of those things you can't blame, But I guess he should have just waited that little while longer, or said something to Hall. A lot of times they check
yeah,
with the fighter. Are you okay? Are you
are
protecting
you right?
yourself? So I think that's what he didn't do. Is he should have said something to Hall and asked him, "Are you okay? Are you going to fight or anything?" Just to see whether he was still conscious and protecting himself.
Yeah. As a fan, if you ask me, I would have let that fight go. I mean, at least for 10-15 seconds more, just to see if he is not hurt more.
Yeah, well, we agree on that. Now,
Yes.
coming to the and like I said before, we are very big fans of Uriah Hall, and we do think he's gonna bounce back.
Yes.
Derek Brunson, of course, felt he deserved a title shot. Being number 10, we feel he still has a couple of fights to go before he deserves a title shot. A bit premature.
Yes.
Because Uriah Hall is number 9, he's number 10. So I don't think you deserve a title shot by by
अभी
defeating
अभी
the.
middleweight you can say title contention is in you can say बीच में लटकी हुई है
Uh,
because Bisping is fighting Henderson for his last fight,
no, and if
right?
you look at the top five, six
Yeah,
of middleweight, it's a
tough
killer
call,
division. It's a
very
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 tough
tough call.
decision.
Yeah,
It's a tough division.
yeah, it's very tough because now you see this Chris Weidman is going to fight Joel Romero, and
And
then
Luke Rockhold is fighting Jacare.
या जात्रे सूजा हाँ राइट तो आई थिंक इसके बाद दोनों के फाइटर जो भी जीतेगा दोनों फाइट में से दे शुड फाइट फॉर द नंबर वन कंटेंडरशिप
Contender,
ऑफ
yeah, exactly. And of course, जो बंदा सब मजे ले रहा है वो बिस्मिंग बैठ के पूरे मजे ले रहा है. And from what it seems like, everybody hates him.
एवरीबॉडी
Everybody hates him. Henderson, Luke. I think he's got a lot of created a lot of bad blood, but he doesn't care because he's the champion.
या ही इज बिग फ्रॉम द स्टार्ट ही इज अ टोटल डिक
Yeah,
वो तो शुरू से ही इज अ बैड टॉकर वहां पे बिस्पिंग बट दैट्स हाउ ही सेल्स इट सी 6 मिनट में उसने अपना मैनचेस्टर का शो भर दिया
and I remember
दैट्स
just seeing a fight of his, which was an older fight. I forgot the name of the fighter, but he basically gave him an illegal knee to the head when he had both. That fighter had both of his knees down. And of course, he was just penalized 1 point. He did win that fight, but you could clearly tell that that fighter had been affected by that illegal knee to
या
the head, forehead. And at the end of the fight, Bisping went and told him, "You should apologize to me."
Yes, yes. I don't remember. I also don't remember the fighter's name. I need to check it because yes, he is the very many of the time. अभी जब post fight conference में भी after his fight with Luke Rockhold, तभी he said something bad about it. Even the fight was over.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why, I think it's such a tough loss to somebody like him. And it's so tough for all of the guys. I think even Weidman says that, it's a shame that Bisping is the champ of that division. But anyway, we've got that fight coming up very soon with Michael Bisping and Dan Henderson. And
Yeah,
of course, we're going to be covering it because we're really excited about that matchup. Just imagine what happens if Dan Henderson
knocks
wins
out.
and retires. Then the belt is open, of course. So, but Bisping, of course, wants that. And Bisping, let's not forget, Dan Henderson knocked him out,
Out.
and
Yeah.
Bisping feels that when he was unconscious, Dan Henderson still gave him another, like a huge
Yeah. Huge
ground and
flying,
pound punch to the
flying.
face while he was unconscious. So Bisping says that I want to knock Dan Henderson out, and while he's unconscious, I'm going to hit him again.
He's gonna hit him again.
So
No, but no way.
so lots of bad blood, but like we've seen, Henderson just defeated Hector Lombard.
Right, right.
In style. He knocked him out, and so Dan Henderson still has a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of I don't know what's the right word. हिंदी में बोलेंगे तो उसकी गाड़ में अभी भी काफी दम है. So he has a lot of gas left, and I think that is going to be one hell of a fight. But let's talk about that later. Let's get down to the
But
title fight, which was Dustin Poirier versus Michael
यूराया के
Johnson.
बारे में बताऊंगा प्रवीण
Yeah.
यूराया के बारे में कि I was excited जब यूराया हॉल वर्सेस एंडरसन सिल्वा अनाउंस हुआ था UFC 200 के लिए.
Yeah.
No, not for 200. It was before
No,
200.
I think it was before that. But of course, Anderson Silva had to, wasn't able to fight, and he pulled out.
Yeah, he pulled out, but it would have been a tough matchup. It would have been a very tough matchup.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, there are a lot of these interesting matchups, and we still hope to see that again. We still
Right.
hope to see Uriah Hall bounce back again. And like I was saying, now to the title, of course, the main, not the title, but the main event, Dustin Poirier versus Michael Johnson at lightweight. Now, just a little background about both of these guys. Dustin Poirier is known more for being knocked out by Conor McGregor.
Yes.
That I shouldn't say is his claim to fame, but that's what he's known for more.
Right.
And Michael Johnson, of course, is known more for losing to Nate Diaz.
Yeah,
And Nate
yeah.
Diaz calling out Conor McGregor at the end of that fight and getting the fight. When
और
Rafael Dos Anjos hurt his foot and had to withdraw, he getting the Nate Diaz getting the fight, and of course going on to becoming one of the superstars by knocking Conor McGregor out and having number two also, which was of course a lot of people have their views also on who actually won. But Nate Diaz turned into a superstar after defeating Michael Johnson, and in the post, after the fight, calling out Conor McGregor. So Michael Johnson still has a lot of bad blood from that because he, of course, doesn't feel he lost. But I saw the fight. I feel Nate
yes.
Diaz won, he showed a lot of skill in that fight.
Yeah, I think Nate Diaz won unanimously.
Yeah,
Because he himself told that I got played by Nate.
yeah,
वहां पे वो खुद ही लूज कर गया कि भाई वहां पे आपको पता ही है कि नेट डियाज जब डियाज ब्रदर्स दोनों लड़ते हैं तो बीच में गाली गलौज तो चलेगा ही
चले गए बिल्कुल.
चलेगा ही जब चलेगा यू शुड हैव बीन प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर दैट
Yeah, especially
जब
with
चल
Nate Diaz, कि क्या करने वाला है वो बीच में आके क्या करने वाला है, you know that.
या
And you know how he fights, so you should be prepared
ही
for
कुछ
that. And he
मिडिल
showed a lot of skill.
पिक्चर
Like I said, it's not like he fought dirty or something. He showed a lot of skill, and Nate Diaz deservedly won that fight.
एब्सोल्युटली एब्सोल्युटली नेट डियाज वो फाइट किसी भी हालत में माइकल जॉनसन वो फाइट नहीं जीता था
Yeah.
नेट डियाज ही वो फाइट जीता था
So the
बट
fight is basically between one guy known for losing to Conor McGregor and the other guy known for losing his fight to Nate Diaz. So anyway,
Yeah.
there's still numbers. There's Dustin's number 7, Michael's number
Number
10.
10.
Southpaw
Yeah.
versus Southpaw.
Okay.
Dustin was on I think a 3 or 4 fight winning streak,
Yes, yes.
and
Yes.
Michael Johnson was on a 2 fight losing streak.
Michael Johnson, yes. Michael Johnson, I think, lost to Nate Diaz before this, and I think Daniel Darius.
Yeah,
Yeah, Daniel Darius.
yeah. I forgot the fighter's name, which I shouldn't. Should do my
Right.
homework, but fuck it. you know,
Daniel
it's a
Darius के साथ उसकी फाइट जो थी, that was a split decision. तो
yeah.
वो हम कह सकते हैं कि it was like किधर भी जा सकता है.
Yeah. Now, if you see the starting of this fight, of course, both are really tough fighters. They didn't touch gloves also at the beginning of the fight.
वो वेन से शुरू हो गया था because in Wayne
Yeah.
there was some very much bad blood there.
Yeah, there
They
was.
were, I mean, they were ready to go there.
Yeah.
In all the way
So we
in
saw they didn't touch gloves. Michael seemed really focused,
What?
and of course, he had much more to lose than Dustin because he did not want to go on a 3 fight losing streak. He wanted to get his name back, which, like we just spoke about, was, for lack of a better word, tarnished by Nate Diaz. And
Right.
he started in with some really good combinations. Both fighters were trying to control the center. Dustin started bleeding early, I think, of course, because Michael got in some great combinations.
Right.
Michael got a huge right uppercut.
Right.
I would say it was like a right uppercut and followed it with a
Right.
left. And this is while Dustin was getting in some good combinations. So he basically
Right.
sneaked in that right and left.
Yes, that's correct. It was like a right upper hook, you can say lower, you can say the uppercut kind of right, and then followed by a huge left
Yeah.
while he was going.
And immediately, of course, he got Dustin down and started it with some huge ground and pound. And this time, we can definitely say that the referee was right in stopping
Yeah.
it because there was no way that Dustin, it seemed like he was going to be able to protect himself.
Absolutely, he was not able to recover
Yeah.
from the ground and pound that Michael Johnson put it on him. So there was no point, I mean, continuing that fight.
Yeah.
वहाँ and Michael Johnson looked fired up, absolutely fired up.
He
उसके बाद
looked totally wired up. He came there to destroy Dustin, and he did.
he did. मैंने माइकल जॉनसन का नॉकआउट पहले नहीं देखा था.
Yeah.
मेरे को नहीं लगा था कि he would knock Dustin out. I thought that it would be a good fight to see. कि डस्टिन पॉयर के बारे में हम जानते हैं कि he is a knockout artist, but Michael Johnson, he puts volume into it like Frankie Edgar. वो बस jab, throws, kicks and all that. But submission game उसका ठीक है, and he showed that he has power too.
Yeah, I agree. Even we were not sure which is why I didn't give any predictions on this fight because I knew it was going to be a really tough match. You know,
it was
कि
very
दोनों
tough.
गमरू जवान है और कौन जीतने वाला है कुछ मालूम नहीं था, लेकिन ये मालूम था कि जी जान लगाने वाले हैं दोनों. And which is of course what happened, but what turned out was Michael was the hungrier of course. It turned out.
माइकल के बारे में आपको एक बात बताता हूँ. माइकल वॉज इन अ सिमिलर सिचुएशन पहले भी, बिकॉज आपको पता है यूएफसी की पॉलिसी है कि 3 फाइट्स एंड यू माइट बी कट फ्रॉम द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, जो मेजोरिटी लोगों के साथ होता है. So he lost 2 fights to consecutively.
Yeah, and this coming from a guy, Michael Johnson was seen as a title contender some time back.
Yes, he was on a 4-5 winning streak.
Yeah, so he was seen as a title contender, and of course, as we've seen, a couple of losses, and the carpet is pulled from underneath your feet, and you know, you're all of a sudden you're fighting to survive just to keep your place in the UFC.
बस ये कह सकते हैं कि नेट डियाज वाली जो फाइट थी उससे उसका बेड़ा गर्क हुआ. पर ही केम बैक स्ट्रॉन्ग. बट अब प्रॉब्लम है कि किया क्या जाए, बिकॉज टॉप 6 सारे बिजी है. अगर सिर्फ जो खाली है दैट इज खबीब. अगर आप उसको खबीब के सामने फेंक दोगे तो खबीब नहीं छोड़ेगा.
Of course, and that's another of course fighter we're dying to see come back to the cage with a high level fight is Khabib.
Yeah, I think the Khabib fight with the Dos Anjos was one of the biggest one. It would have been a big fight.
Yeah. Well, because there's a lot of other big fights happening in the division now. Now we also saw after Michael Johnson won and Dustin was still on the floor and recuperating, Michael Johnson came on top of him and started celebrating.
Yeah,
which was not appreciated by Dustin.
It was not appreciated.
And it seemed a little bit in poor taste.
It was, and I think he apologized for it.
He did apologize for it, and Dustin accepted it, and he did say that I'm sorry, you know, I just got carried away.
I don't know if he would be penalized for that or not, but it was totally a dick move.
It was, and you know, like we said, it was in bad taste. ठीक है, तुम जीत गए हो, बेचारे को नीचे डाल यार, उसके ऊपर तुम फिर खड़े होके नाच रहे हो, you know.
सही नहीं, वाह, बिल्कुल सही नहीं. आपने आप समझो कि आपने किसी को फिजिकली बीट किया, उसे नॉकआउट किया है. आपने फिजिकली बीट किया तो यू हैव नथिंग टू प्रूव देन.
यू हैव नथिंग टू प्रूव. बाकी आप देखो कितने और फाइटर्स जाके जब जीतते हैं, नॉकआउट करते हैं, उससे पहले जो भी बैड ब्लड हुआ हो, जाके झुकते हैं फाइटर के सामने, पूछते हैं आप ठीक ठाक हो या नहीं हो, यू नो, यू ओके, आई एम सॉरी एंड आई होप यू आर ओके. लेकिन ये बंदा तो खड़े होके ऑफ कोर्स नाच रहा था, बट लाइक वी सेड, सी he had everything to lose, and he was, of course, he knocked him out in style. He was excited, you know, and he did say sorry afterwards. So, you know, all water under the bridge. You know.
Yeah, but I think वो हुआ in the heat of the moment. कह सकते हैं कि he was fighting to survive. इसलिए, but anyhow, it was not appreciated, and it was not a very good move by Michael Johnson. But he proved that he can knock out people.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't, but when we get back to the fight, Michael Johnson did win in you know, great style, and he's proved he's made a comeback to the division, and I think he's going to get a really good fight. He has asked for a fight at Madison Square Garden, UFC 205. Let's see if he gets it or not. So there we have it. You know, we had some really exciting knockouts. One early stoppage, if we want to call it, one fight which the fans didn't appreciate and showed their non-appreciation by booing. ये तो हो गया UFC Hidalgo. बाकी हम तमन प्रीत आपसे बात करना चाहते हैं कि as a fan, what else are you looking forward to seeing? Of course, you've expressed your desire to talk about Bellator, of course, and you know, World Series of Fighting as well.
Yeah. WSOF में कुछ लोगों को छोड़ के, लाइक लैंस पामर वहाँ था वहाँ पे, और 2-3 लोगों को छोड़ के, लाइक एक और जो he was a UFC veteran. अब जेक शील्ड वर्सेस यू कैन से दिस गाय जॉन फिच इज गोइंग टू हैपन. मेरे को ये एक चीज समझ नहीं आ रही है. आपने UFC ने जेक शील्ड को निकाला है ये कह के कि he was a boring fighter. he fights on the jiu-jitsu. But Damien Maya क्या करता है?
Yeah, I agree. And Jake Shields is part, of course, represent Nate Diaz's
Absolutely,
camp.
I love it. I love it.
And I don't
He,
see him as a boring fighter at all, but who knows what's happening behind the scenes and for what reason somebody's removed or not.
but I mean, if he was removed just because he was a boring fighter, there were many people who are boring. I mean, not only Jake Shields was ranked number 6 or 7 when he was checked out and he was winning.
Yeah.
Right. So there are many people who are still boring and they are there in the UFC from a long time.
Yeah.
So that does not make any sense.
Well, a lot of things don't make any sense, and that's why we're talking about them
Right.
here.
The,
Of
the
course,
other person, yeah, sure. The other person I would like to talk about was Ben Askren.
sorry?
Ben Askren.
Yeah.
Yeah, same issue with the Ben Askren.
Yeah.
भाई बोरिंग फाइटर है, सिर्फ रेसलिंग रेसलिंग करता है,
Yeah.
बट उसका रिकॉर्ड देखो, ही इज अनबीटन, बेलाटोर में अनबीटन, 1FC में अनबीटन.
Yeah.
अब क्या करा जाए उसके साथ? ही जस्ट नीड टू कम्पीट इन UFC.
ऐसे आप
बस
बोरिंग फाइटर के बारे में बात करो तो फिल डेविस वाज आल्सो रिमूव्ड आई फील मोर और लेस फॉर दैट फिल
या
डेविस beat some really top level guys including I think Glover Teixeira.
या वो फाइट भी आई थिंक बू हुआ था जस्ट बिकॉज इट वाज इन ब्राजील और ही वाज जस्ट रेसलिंग ग्लोवर टेक्सेरा.
So you know we saw Phil Davis was you know had some wins over a lot of highly ranked guys but not a very exciting fighter and so you know made his way to Bellator.
राइट एब्सोल्युटली. एंड फाइटर्स को अपना फायदा देखना चाहिए. आई थिंक इट इज अ गुड मूव की बिकॉज अगर आप देखो फाइटर्स की लाइफ इट्स नॉट वेरी बिग की स्टार्स या मूवी स्टार्स की तरह कि 50 साल 40 50 तक कुछ काम करते रह रहे हैं. 36 37 में दे रिटायर.
Yeah.
राइट. तो उसके बाद भी उन्हें दे हैव टू प्रोवाइड फॉर द
Unless
फैमिली.
you're Dan Henderson.
या अनलेस यू आर
You're
डैन
Dan
हेंडरसन.
Henderson, no?
अनलेस पीपल से जिसने डैन हेंडरसन को टच किया है,
Yeah.
दे से कि ही इज बिल्ट लाइक अ ट्री, कि उसको
Yeah.
फील नहीं होता है ही इज बिल्ट लाइक अ ह्यूमन.
Yeah.
सो ही इज ऑल टुगेदर, और यू आर ब्रॉक लेसनर, ऑल टुगेदर डिफरेंट स्पेसिमेन.
Yeah.
तो
So
तब तक
you know, so even we, of course, we want to start talking about other fights and everything. Of course, we have to wait till more people start, you know, seeing these fights. Of course, UFC का फायदा ये है कि it's being screened in India, Sony 6, Sony ESPN, तो लोग देखते हैं, उसका व्यूअरशिप काफी है.
Right.
तो जब हम उसके बारे में बात करते हैं तो लोगों ने वो फाइट्स देखे हुए होते हैं और उसके बारे में एनालिसिस भी सुनना चाहते हैं,
they can relate to it. Yes.
especially from a desi point of view.
हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. बिकॉज अभी व्हेन आई वाजंट लिसनिंग टू कमेंटरी यहाँ पे these guys Joe Rogan and his all his crew do this fight companion stuff.
Yeah.
Right, so it is fun to listen to and you are all together watching a fight.
Exactly. तो जो अभी इंडिया में जो masses जो है, of course some die hard fans like yourself are able to watch the Bellator matches and WSOF, but there's the majority of people who are not still able to.
Yeah, but यहाँ पे Bellator देखना भी बहुत मुश्किल है.
हाँ.
Because we just see the highlights जो भी Facebook पे या YouTube पे या कहीं पे भी शेयर होता है, तो we just see that, we just get to see all these highlights and all that stuff. और but the other thing is Chael Sonnen signed with Bellator.
Of course, and I think that is going to be a very big thing for Bellator. Chael Sonnen, of course, is the original loudmouth. You know, you can say Conor McGregor का बाप, Conor McGregor का बाप है वो. उससे पहले काफी पहले वो ऑलरेडी ये सब चीजें जो Conor McGregor अब कर रहा है वो पहले से करते आ रहा है.
वो करते आ रहा है शुरू से. he is the original gangster.
Yeah.
The reflection of perfection, the man who got my attention.
But except, of course, he's not been able to back it up all the time like Conor McGregor.
हाँ, apart from Anderson Silva fight, उसके अलावा जो फर्स्ट फाइट थी, आई थिंक ही वाज विनिंग ऑल द 4 राउंड. जब तक एंडरसन सिल्वा ने उसको आर्मबार नहीं किया था, तब तक वो ही वाज विनिंग दैट फाइट. उसके बाद आई थिंक ही वाज नॉट एबल टू ट्रांसलेट हिज ट्रैश टॉकिंग इनटू द केज. बट it's very enjoyable what he. But मैं एज अ पर्सनल फैन ऑफ Chael Sonnen, मैं खुद बहुत बड़ा फैन हूँ Chael Sonnen का. तो मेरी यू कैन से कि मैं शुरू से उसका पॉडकास्ट भी फॉलो करता हूँ और सारा कुछ, बट द थिंग इज ही इज एंटरटेनिंग, ही
Yeah.
पुट एसेस ऑन द सीट.
See, and those antics make you feel on the one side, या तो इस बंदे की पिटाई हो कि इतनी बात की है, इसकी पिटाई होनी चाहिए और हम देखना चाहते हैं कि ये पिटे अच्छी तरह से, इसकी
जैसे
धुनाई
सीएम
हो.
पंक, या राइट, जैसे सीएम पंक के साथ हुआ.
हाँ,
मोस्ट ऑफ द
बिल्कुल
पीपल वांटेड टू सी हिज एस किक्ड, राइट.
बिल्कुल.
वो सारे चाहते थे कि कुटाई हो इसकी, जस्ट बिकॉज ही इज प्रो रेसलर, ही इज ट्राइंग टू
लेकिन आप
फाइट
देखो
इनटू अ
उसके
बिग
कितने सारे फैंस हैं, सीएम पंक के मिलियंस एंड मिलियंस ऑफ फैंस हैं. अगर आप हमारे पेज पे भी देखो, एमएमए इंडिया पेज पे, शो के पेज पे, तो
राइट. हाँ,
जरा सी आप सीएम पंक के बारे में कुछ बोल दो कि हार गया. अभी फैक्ट है भाई कि हार गया.
fact है.
हमने हमने थोड़ी हराया, हार गया वो. अभी हम क्या करें? तो
ये तो
हजार लोग आ जाते हैं सीएम पंक के, अरे वो आएगा वापस और जीतेगा, तुम देखना. और ये वो, हमने कहा ठीक है. सो ही स्टिल गॉट अ लॉट ऑफ फैंस हु आर रूटिंग फॉर हिम टू कम बैक.
बहुत अच्छी बात है. इट इज गुड फॉर द स्पोर्ट.
Of course, it's good for the sport, and apparently the pay-per-view numbers were drastically larger because of his presence.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely,
if people are willing to pay to see him get beaten, it's a win-win for everybody.
absolutely. It is
Except he
win-win.
needs to come back with slightly higher skills, because if you're getting beaten by a guy like Mickey Gall, I should say, see, Mickey Gall is a great fighter, and I think he's going to go on to great things. But of course, he has used this platform really smartly, and I
He's
think
very
he has
smart
become
guy.
a star
Very
in his
smart guy.
very third fight on the
Very
basis of
smart
that,
guy.
and he showed that he is a serious
He's
fighter
a
who can
judge.
stand up with the best of them. Of course, CM Punk is not the best of them, but he has shown and calling out the right people that he is here to fight.
He is serious motherfucker.
Yes,
You
he
can say
is.
that.
He is. So,
क्योंकि
great, a lot of exciting fights, and with that, we're going to wrap up the show today. Thank you, Taman Preet. It was a
like,
pleasure speaking to you, and it's great. We're really glad to start the fan corner and get MMA fans on to share their views and expert comments. And we look forward to hearing from you again. So keep tweeting and writing and everything, and we will keep exchanging views so that we can grow the MMA sport in India, because we want to see, at the end of the day, we want to see Indian MMA fighters out there fighting with the best as well.
एब्सोल्यूट, ये हमारा मोटो ही है. बिकॉज इंडिया में जो कॉम्बैट स्पोर्ट्स है वो काफी सालों से है. तो व्हाई नॉट देयर शुड बी मोर इंडियन फाइटर्स इन द WSOF ने एक अच्छा काम किया है, दैट दे हैव टाइड अप विद द लोकल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन.
Yeah.
यहाँ पे इंडिया में भी दे हैव टाइड अप. तो एक बड़ा स्टेप है,
Yeah.
छोटा
In,
छोटा
in, in
करके.
fact, Invicta is having one female fighter. Indian female fighter is fighting in Invicta. 3 Indian fighters are fighting at a new tournament called Brave. The Brave Championship, which is going to happen in Behran on September 23rd.
I think Abdul Munir is going to fight there.
Abdul Munir is fighting there, Mohammad Farhad, and one more gentleman, I forgot his name.
Yeah, it is good for the sport. कैसे भी, I think that India has a lot of potential. कभी अब I don't know कि पहले 2012 में there was talks going on. Lorenzo Flores Patita जब यहाँ आए थे 2012 में, there were talks of Indian Cup, Indian the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
उसके बाद कुछ one it was not you can say fruitful, or it
Yeah,
didn't.
sometimes these things, of course, peter out. But, we hope, the MMA India show hopes to bring the focus, of course, and bring out the fact that there are a lot of Indian MMA fans out here with not just a hunger to see fights, but also a great knowledge.
Yeah, and shout out to Chaitanya Gavli.
Sorry?
He's making a shout out to Chaitanya Gavli. He's making India proud.
Yes, he is. He's
Yeah.
one of India's great fighters. We wish him all the best always, and we will continue to put the spotlight on MMA in India. We've already started some shows where we have spoken about the state of MMA in India. We're going to start putting out, of course, lists. People keep messaging us, where can we train? We're going to start putting out lists of gyms where they can train in various parts of India. We are going to start focusing on Indian fighters who are going in starting with Brave, of course, Indian fighters. We tried getting some of them on the show, but unfortunately They had already traveled. We spoke to Abdul Munir, in fact, to cover him. But he was, in fact, that was just a day before he was leaving to Behran. So we are very hopeful that we're going to start covering a lot of these Indian fighters, to start bringing them out to Indian MMA fans and start creating a bigger awareness about the Indian MMA fighters.
एब्सोल्युटली एब्सोल्युटली यहाँ पे जितने भी जिम्स हैं, जो भी लोग हमारे इंडियन फाइटर्स बाहर लड़ने जा रहे हैं या लड़ रहे हैं, they are going under the desk right now. Nobody knows about them, but they are putting their heart and soul out. So we should feel obligated to highlight them just for the sake of sport and we being a fan of MMA and MMA
Yes.
India.
And we shall do that. And saying that, I would like to thank everyone for tuning in again. This is Parvin Dabas and our guest fan commentator, Taman Preet Singh. Thank you once again, Taman.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, Praveen.
Thank you. Namaskar, everyone. Thank you.